This is the pet FRQ, and we have a hierarchy with the pet class as being the superclass, two children classes, cat and dog, which inherit from pet, and loud dog, which inherits from dog. And pet is an abstract class, which means it can have an abstract method. And in the description, it does have an abstract method. It's right down here. It's speak, which returns a string that has whether it meows because it's a cat or it barks because it's a dog. If you notice here in the pet class, it has a my name, which is the name of the pet. The constructor sets the my name to the name of the animal, and we have a get name because my name is private. All right, so that's the pet superclass, which is abstract. And in the problem, it's asking us to code the cat class, which is basically going to be the same as the dog class, except it returns a meow when it implements the speak method, and it has to implement the speak method because the speak method is abstract in the superclass pet. Okay. So if we take a look, I have my cat class here. It looks very similar to the dog class. It extends pet because pet is abstract and it's a superclass. The constructor takes in a name, and maybe we can call this guy a init name. And we're going to pass a init name to the superclass's constructor, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to go to the pet class, which is right here, and it's going to run the constructor right here, and the constructor takes in an argument. So that's why we need to give it a init name, right? So it's going to take in the name, and then it's going to set the my name instance variable to the name that's coming in. Okay, so that's the constructor. Next we have the toString, which returns getName because the name is the only instance variable of the setup at the moment. But ideally, there would be more instance variables here, and then there would be more instance variables in cat and dog, right? And the idea here is that cat and dog would have unique instance variables because we are factoring them out into the pet class. So if they had any instance variables that were in common, they would be moved up to the pet class, right? So any instance variables found here in dog, found here in cat, should be unique to dog and unique to cat. Okay. So yes. So this is the cat. This is the cat method class. We got the constructor. We have no instance variables because they didn't ask us to write any. We have the toString, which returns the only instance variable value from the super. It runs the get name of the super. And here we don't need to say super.getName because a cat is a pet. It's extending pet. And all of the instance variables and methods over in pet are available to the cat. So we can just access it directly like that, right? It's only when running the super's constructor that we have to use the super keyword. Okay, so that's that. That's part A. And we could see that it works by creating a cat over in the driver, right? So I'm gonna come here and take all this and put it into a quote. I'm going to create a cat. So I'm going to say cat C is equal to that. And then I'm going to print line the C. So system.out.println. And I'm going to put the C in there. It should print out its name. So I come and run this. And it does. Prints out Garfield. Okay. So that worked fine. The next question here is assume that class dog has been declared as shown. Okay, I will do that, and I coded it. So we have a dog class. We can see it right over here. Where's the dog? The dog is right over here, right? And so it's exactly the same as what they had, except I defined the speak method to return bark, and I also defined a toString. Okay. I think they didn't implement the speak method nor the constructor. And so the constructor of the dog is the same as the cat, right? We simply run the supers and pass it the name value that's coming in as a parameter. So okay, so we have the dog class, right? Declared as shown in the beginning. If the string dog sound is returned by the dog method speak, then the loud dog speak method returns a string containing dog sound 2 times. Okay, so let's define loud dog. And basically, loud dog is going to be a child class of the dog class. So if we take a look at his setup, it's very similar to dog, right? Instead of dog extending pet, loud dogs is extending dog. We have the constructor, which is running the super, taking in a name, and running the super's constructor, which is going to run dog's constructor, which is going to run the pet's constructor, right? And we're passing name and bubbling it up. And then we have the speak method, which is what they wanted us to write. And what is it going to return? It's going to return the super's speak. So it's going to return the dog's speak, which, if we remember, it returns bark, right? Returns a string bark. So here would be replaced with bark, and here would be replaced with bark. So if I run speak on the loud dog, it is going to return the string bark bark. And we also have the toString get name. Okay, so if that's the case, then I can go back to my pet driver and I can test it out. Dog D, dog D, dog D. Oh, dog. Odie. And I'm gonna run this guy, see what happens. Okay, so it prints out his name because we're running the toString, right? But what if I wanted to run the speak method? Then I do that, right? And I run it, and I get bark. Great. And it only printed out bark once because D was a regular dog, right? But so I tested the regular dog, and now let's go ahead and test the loud dog. Let's make this guy a loud dog and see if it all works the way that it's supposed to by bubbling up these values to the constructors of the superclasses. So bark bark, excellent, right? So our loud dog works as we thought it would. So I can come on down here and we can go to the last portion. And so this last portion, they talk about a class called kennel. And kennel is going to be a list of pets, right? So that's the instance variable. It's an array list of pets. And it has a method called allSpeak. And allSpeak should run through all the pets in the array list and print their name and print what they speak. So it should be like Garfield, meow. Odie, bark, and so on and so on and so on, right? That's what allSpeak's going to do. So if we go ahead and take a look at my kennel class, it's right over here. What do? We have an instance variable, which is an array list of pet objects called petList. The constructor takes in a array list, right, and sets petList equal to that array list. And then we have our allSpeak method. And what does allSpeak do? It for eaches through the pet list. And remember, if you are iterating through a array list without having to remove any of the elements, you want to for each through it. Makes your code shorter and sweeter. All right. If you need to remove an element, then the easiest way is to use a regular for loop. But if you're using if you're not removing anything from the list, then you want to use a for each loop. So what do we need to print out for every element? We need to print out its name. So I can do .get name right here. Right? Or I could just do P, because if I just do P, it's going to run the toString, which does run get name, right, of the pet. So here's going to run the get name. I'm going to put a colon, and then I'm going to tack on the speak of the animal, right? So it's going to be Garfield, meow. It's going to iterate again. It's going to be Odie, bark. It's going to iterate again. It's going to be loud Odie, bark bark. Right? So that's what allSpeak is supposed to do. So I'm coming back to my driver. I open it up. Whoa. I open up my pet driver. Yes. And I unerase all this code. Right? And what am I doing over here? Well, the constructor for the kennel requires a array list of pets. So that's what I'm doing up here. I create an array list of pets. It's empty. And then I add cat, loud dog, cat, dog, loud dog. And then I just gave the constructor to the kennel the array list I just made. Then I'm running allspeak. So what should happen is this should be Garfield meow, OD bark, big OD bark bark. Garfield 2 meow, OD 2 bark, big OD 2 bark bark. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this guy and see if it works. There we go. And that is the pets FRQ.